Welcome to Plans Are Booked, a podcast for every reader. I'm Molly Geller.
I'm Stephanie Blackburn.
And we are a duo today for chapter 113. We're really getting up there.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Surprise. What have you been up to?
Lots of doom scrolling. Lots and lots of doom scrolling. And then also watching the new season of Ted, which takes place in like the 90s in Boston. And Amy, who you know, who has a very thick Boston accent, I sent her a text the other day and I was like, you need to be watching the new season of Ted because they have like a Dunkin' Donuts scene. They had the old commercial, the song from Bagel Bites.
Oh, I thought you were about to say Water Country.
It's just like it sticks you in such a place and time in Massachusetts, and the accents are just like perfection. It's so good. And I just need something to like giggle about in the evenings. What else have I been doing?
I want to talk about this trivia night that we went to.
Oh my God.
So we
Forgot about it.
We went to the book fair at Bow Market in Somerville a few days ago, and part of it was in the evening. The bookstore All She Wrote was hosting a book-themed trivia night. I was, first of all, stunned that it was sold out. Like, people showed up wanting to come to this thing, and the owner of the bookstore was like, I'm so sorry, like, every single seat is spoken for. Also, I didn't realize every team had to be 6 people, and I think we just assumed, like, the 3 of us would be our own team, me, you, and Caitlin, and then we wound up with 3 strangers at our table who were part of our team.
Who ended up being wonderful.
They were wonderful. I mean, we always have fun talking to other readers, but I think that was a moment where it's like, all right, I guess. And also, embarrassingly, we had already filled out the scorecard with the team name Plans Are Booked before these other ladies joined us. And we were like, sorry, that's the name of the team. And they did 4 rounds and a 5th round, which was a picture round bonus. It was very fun, like to have questions where you unequivocally knew the answer, and then fun to kind of do process of elimination with other readers when you weren't quite sure. But at the end,
I'm still mad about this.
Something crazy happened, which is they announced the correct answers to all of the questions, and the hosts had wrong answers for 2 of the questions. One, which was about a Lifetime Achievement Award in the romance genre, where they incorrectly said it was Allie Hazelwood when it was Beverly Jenkins.
Also, the fact that like Allie Hazelwood didn't even have any books out for the date of this award.
Correct, which should have been an obvious fact check. And then they asked, what is the condition that Rebecca Yarros and her character Violet share? And they also had that incorrect.
They said fibromyalgia.
And when they announced it, the room like erupted. People were like, are we just supposed to accept that this is incorrect?
But no one else like raised their hand or shouted out like that's wrong. And I know I'm a know-it-all. Like I know I am. It's like a fault. But like I immediately was like, am I wrong? Like I questioned myself because I was like, wait, no one else is saying anything. So I must be wrong. Like it was a weird, like they're telling you the sky isn't blue and no one else was like, what?
Correct. And the like premise of trivia is that the host has answers that are factually correct. And it was one of those moments where you just have to ask yourself, like, do I care enough about this to say something, or can I just let this go? So at our table, we were talking about how distraught we were. And then one of our fellow readers, Iman, walked up there and said, I just need you to know this. And it doesn't matter if you retally it or you make an announcement, but like, you just got to know you guys made 2 really big mistakes there in that last round. And like, everybody's talking about it. So
well, I just feel so bad for like Beverly Jenkins.
Yes.
To not get credit for her award.
You know, when we went to New York City in March of last year, we went to the Ripped Bodice and I bought one of her books. It has been on my TBR this entire time.
I've been waiting for you to start it and then be like, oh my God.
I know. I really, really want to. And I feel like there's always just other things that feel more pressing, but it is like almost like pocket sized the way it's printed. So I don't know, maybe on one of my upcoming trips, I can kind of sneak it into my carry on bag as a bonus book.
Yeah, that would be a good travel book because it's tiny.
And because it has like a bodice ripper cover, which I'm sure would get a lot of attention from everybody around me on the plane and at the airport. Shall we talk about our book for today?
Sure.
So today we're talking about The Encore by Juliet Izon. We are in a very lucky position that we received an early copy of this before it came out, and we were invited to Juliet's book tour stop in Boston. So, in addition to the thoughts that we'll share about reading the book, we also have some intel, having sat in the audience of her Q&A, that I think rounds out our understanding of how the book wound up the way it is. And I think we can share some things without spoiling. So, first, I want to say, and I'm going to put my mic down so I can hold this up for a second. The Encore has a very beautiful cover.
Wait, can you lift it just a little bit? Yeah, because I just want the audience to be able to see the second face, which it took me a while to notice.
It's a beautiful cover. And for those who are listening to us audio only, it is a collection of guitar picks, which has a photo basically inside of the guitar picks. And it's beautiful. I think if you are a person who is attracted to books in the Daisy Jones genre, this would have got your attention on a shelf or on a table immediately. In fact, she said her comparison books or her comp books, she tells people it's like Daisy Jones meets Gossip Girl, which I think is really interesting. So there are three main characters in this book: Anna, who is a rock star, and Will, who is a classical composer, and Lottie, who is a high school student, hence the Gossip Girl part. And it takes place between New York and Boston. And Anna and Will are graduates of a conservatory that I believed was based on Berklee College of Music. Juliet says it's an amalgamation of Berkeley and Juilliard, and she named a third school in Philadelphia that I'd never heard of. I think the Curtis School, maybe it was called. So there's a lot of Boston in here, which for me was really, really fun. I love books that follow around musicians and you get an insider look into what their life is like on tour and how their brain works and how they write songs. I was very interested in that part. This is also a family drama. And as is well documented here on Plans Are Booked, outside of romance, family drama is my second favorite type of story. So I was in on this pretty early. Like in the first maybe 30 to 40 pages, I thought, I'm really going to want to see where this goes. I'll pause there because I don't want to say more until you've had a chance to share your thoughts. And also, if we decide we might give people a spoiler warning to say more than what I just said.
Oh, I want to first talk about where we saw her.
Oh,
I
go
wanna, like,
ahead.
set the scene.
Please. Please.
Okay. So we were invited to her Boston event, which was at the Quinn House, which none of us had heard of before, which is kind of crazy to have lived in Boston like your entire life for you and your entire adult life for me, and have like something new pop up, which is not new. It's just you were unaware of it. It did feel a little Gossip Girl in that we were in like a bougie brownstone that is like a private members only club. It was fun getting to dress up and be somewhere that I probably will never ever go to again because that's just not my scene, but it was nice to like step into the bougie life for just an evening. So we were the only ones, I believe, besides her friend who she was visiting and who came as well, that were not members of this club. We definitely lowered the average age by, I'd say, 30 years potentially. And we sat in the front row like eager beavers because we were just excited to be there. And her talking partner,
Joan F. Smith.
and we're excited to read her book because she sent us home with it. So that'll maybe be in our future. They're both adorable. They're both dressed to the nines, which I just appreciate. If I'm going to be staring at someone from like 5 feet away for an hour, I love when they're looking très chic. It was really fun to get to hear all the behind stuff. I had only just started the book. I think I was maybe 50 pages in when we saw her. So it was kind of nice to like pause the book for a moment, get all this perspective of the writing process for her, and then step back in and kind of like view it a little bit differently. Did you have anything you want to say about the venue we were in?
So, for those who are longtime Bostonians or have read about the lore of the Brahmin of this part of America, the building is what used to be the Algonquin Club, which is a very exclusive members only club. It's the Quinn House, but it's apostrophe Quin, which is the end part of the word Algonquin. And I did not realize the association to that at all when we were invited there, or even when we were there, until the events manager explained that that's the origin of this space. There were no photos allowed at this venue, which destroyed me. Destroyed me for a few reasons. The three of us looked amazing, and there's no evidence of that anywhere because we weren't allowed to take pictures, even like in the lobby. And we couldn't take pictures of Juliet and Joan. We couldn't take pictures with them. I understand wanting to keep member privacy as a priority. I think if you are going to have an event with outside guests, at a bare minimum, you should allow people to take pictures of the guest, like this guest star, like Juliet and Joan you should have been allowed to photograph them, even if you weren't allowed to photograph anything else. They did have a lovely snack spread, I will say. I love a Marcona almond. And anytime someone puts that into like a charcuterie situation, I'm very happy. Juliet, in addition to this debut novel, her majority of her career, she's been an entertainment and travel journalist. And she started working freelance a few years ago, which for those who may not know that industry means she chooses her own projects. Like she decides which editors to work with, which stories she's willing to take on, which stories she's willing to travel for. She shared some epic tales, including going to a private island with Neil Patrick Harris. So she has been mastering the written word in a different format for a really long time. She is used to being edited by other people, which was an interesting thing to consider. And she's used to pitching a story idea in a very concise way. And so when we were learning about the process of her drafting this and figuring out how to get it out into the world, a lot of her connections from this other part of her life were immensely helpful into getting her to where she is now. We also learned about decisions around hardcover versus paperback. We learned about the cover design. She said that she had created a Pinterest board and shared it with the art director and would just kind of prayed that what she would get back was something she could stomach. And didn't she say that it was basically this and they gave her a few different color options?
Yeah, I think so.
That's amazing.
They kind of like nailed it from the get-go.
Which we've heard from many other authors is not the case.
Mm-hmm.
And, Vanessa Lilly spoke to you about the process for the cover art for her books and that they really had a crystal clear idea of how they wanted to market it. And Juliet also mentioned with the Encore that the feedback from places like Hudson News was that if it was in paperback, they thought they could move it in a high volume in the airports and that was a big part of the decision. We learned a lot about her specific journey through publishing.
What's interesting is she talked about what the original title was. Yeah. And then I went home and finished the book. And that title is in like the very last paragraph of the book.
Is it?
Yeah. And when I caught that, I was like, oh, this kind of breaks my heart a little bit because this would have been perfect.
When she told us what the original title was when she drafted it and that the team felt it was too obscure and that people wouldn't get it without reading it or wouldn't pick it up.
Disagree.
It's so disappointing because it is so perfect.
And unique.
And unique and tonally correct. And that I feel like that's a pretty big, I've not written any books and you have written many books. How would you feel if a publisher was like, we got to change the title?
I mean, you know that I'm never truly married. Well, except Golden Hour. Golden Hour was like, that's the title because that's the album that I based this on. But with most of my stuff, I'm like, do you guys have any ideas for the title and stuff? So I could see her being like, I'm willing to be like the easy client who says, Sure, I don't mind changing the title if it means I'm getting published traditionally. Maybe she felt that way. Maybe she wasn't as like heart set on the original one, or maybe it still hurts her a little. Who knows? We should have asked her quietly, like off the record, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it was very cool to get to. So at the time we saw her, I had finished the book and Steph was just starting it. And I think when you go to an author talk like that after you've already consumed the whole thing, you have so many questions and you're curious about so many things. And if you see someone before you read it, it's almost like a trailer to a movie, right? It's like you're getting a sense of what you're headed in for. And I knew early into the book that I was going to like it. And what is so fascinating is someone asked her, if this gets adapted, who would you envision playing the characters? She named a lot of female musicians that inspired her when she talked about Anna. What's interesting is I pictured Anna as like the energy and the vibe of Brandy Carlisle, but blonde.
I pictured her kind of blonde too, but I don't think she is. I think she's brunette. I think she's described that way.
I
Now I
can't
don't remember.
remember. I can't remember. But she said, Juliet said, she was thinking, like, of course, about Daisy Jones and how Riley Keough played that part, but she was thinking about Tori Amos, Fiona Apple. She listed quite a few people. And then she said for Will, the classical composer, she was picturing Andrew Garfield, which I think totally works.
Oh,
That's not how I was picturing him.
that's not how I pictured him at all. I pictured more of like Josh Groban body, but not Josh Groban
Oh,
voice. Like nerdy. He's supposed to be like nerdy, even though he's handsome. He's, you
I
know,
definitely pictured him with like glasses and more of like
yeah,
a
like tall and lanky
lean, yeah, like a
mhm.
lean
And
figure
like a
type.
little bit of a manic energy because he's always like conducting and music is like everywhere and he can
Yes.
hear like actual like, oh, that bus is a C or whatever, you know.
Yes. Yes. I also think, so Lottie, who's the character who's in high school, her single mother has passed away and she's living with her gay uncle, who is a fashion designer. I was picturing him as like a Christian Siriano type.
Oh, interesting. I honestly, I picture like faceless people a lot of the time. This is probably like
Yeah.
a weird brain thing, but like I never picture people's faces. It's just like the outlines of their bodies and their
Okay.
characteristics. Is that weird?
No.
Like when writers describe a character having dimples, that goes in one ear and out the other for me. Like I'm not married to any physical characteristics at all. It's
Okay.
more like the height and then like the personality. That's like what sticks in my brain, which I know is probably like a weird.
No. I think it's like an energy aura thing where
Yeah.
it's more about how you feel while you're inside the head of that character than it is about the physical.
Hmm.
I think there's so many people who could play all three of those parts excellently.
I think they would need like an actual young actor. I feel like so often when we have like high school shows, it's really like a 28-year-old playing like a 16-year-old. I think they would need to have an actual 16-year-old to be playing Lottie in order to feel how young she is and how inappropriate it is that she had like her uncle flits off to Paris and she's left alone to sort of parent herself. And of course she's not strong enough to like tell her peers, you can't come over even though my brownstone is empty right now. We can't have this party that, makes a mess and then the cleaner has to take care of
Yeah.
it on Monday morning, Who knows? I didn't grow up on the Upper East Side, but like I feel like that could be very typical of like children parenting themselves when their parents are in like high powered jobs that, well, I got to go to work, across the pond or whatever. And I think it forced her to be more mature than she maybe was ready to. Like that
For
scene
sure.
where Aiden finally puts down his foot and is like, "You come home now. You're a child, and that is not the situation you need to be in." I kept waiting for him to do that much sooner. And he didn't.
Yeah, big time. I think there's so many things about this story that feel to me not like real life, like weren't
Mhm.
relatable at all. But I think it works in the fictional universe that has been created.
Of like Nashville and Hollywood and New York and
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. I think, you know, when you think about these dynamics between people amongst like people you actually know, it's like never. Like
Mhm.
there would never be a situation where a 16-year-old would be unsupervised like that. But in this universe that she's created, like that is what's real for these characters. And what I found so interesting is Juliet is not a musician herself.
Which is
And
crazy to me to be able to set yourself so deeply in that world and not have like played an instrument your whole life.
exactly, exactly. And one of the things that, you know, we've talked about a lot on this podcast is this idea of write what you know, like come from a place of deep truth. And she really made up everything about this. Like the conservatory experience, didn't experience it herself. The writing of songs, doesn't experience herself. Giving a character perfect pitch, has never experienced it herself. I think she was so ambitious in taking on things that were totally new to her. And she was explaining to the audience at this event that researching and fact checking a lot of the things she wanted to include was one of her favorite parts, and that she spoke to many different musicians, composers, people in the industry. And, you know, because of her line of work, she had a lot of those connections already. I just can't imagine as a non musician thinking, like, I'm going to write a story about three musicians.
Mhm. And not just musicians, but like
Geniuses.
savants. Yeah. I think that probably like me personally, I wouldn't be able to necessarily do that, but I think because of her research background, it probably didn't feel like a daunting task to be able to do that. She probably was like, this is just like my normal work. I'm just going to do the research and then I'll be able to actually like immerse myself in it fictionally, you know?
Yeah. Yes. As regular listeners of the show, know we often put little sticky notes in our books of the passages that we want to read aloud. And I'm realizing that the one that I wanted to read is like the biggest spoiler of this entire book. So I think what I'll say is this: there are a lot of dramatic turns in this that make this, in my opinion, an excellent book club book. There are
Or vacation book. I feel like
definitely, or a vacation book. This will keep your attention. You're doing a lot of like detective work as you're reading, trying to figure out how these three characters are going to be interwoven and what like secrets will be revealed. And it continues all the way until the end. It's not like there's one big reveal and then all of a sudden
mm,
it's like smooth sailing. There keep being additional mini explosions
mhm,
that happen along the way. And I think that this reads almost like film-like in the way it plays
mhm.
out, and I don't know if she intended for it to be that way or that was just a happy accident, but I think it will keep your attention. You will have a lot of things you wanna discuss with other people who have read it, and she told us that she has a film agent, but the book has not yet been optioned. I hope it does make its way to the screen.
I could see it very easily in like a alternating back and forth timeline type thing. Or well, I mean, technically, it's more of like three timelines. So you could braid that nicely together. I honestly think for me, the strongest part was the past, where they're
Mm.
going to the music school.
Oh,
Berkeley.
Berkeley. I was like, "What are you trying to tell me telepathically? The faux what?"
When they're at, like, the fictional Berkeley,
Yes.
as freshmen and then throughout the 4 years, I felt like that was the strongest, and it might just because we're in Boston and it's Boston and I could just see in my mind's eye everything, and also, I mean, college was, like, such a strong, core memories for me that I just could picture those moments and those chapters in the story so well, like they were so strong. But also, I think because those are like the quote unquote normal time before they've blown up musically. And so it was easier to relate to. And there's something about school in the fall and falling in love and trying new things and figuring out like you're actually like a brilliant musician, which I never have, but like I could just see it all so beautifully. And I think that it would be fun to see it on the big screen or the little screen because the music choices for like background music and also the clothes of the time period in Boston would just be, you know.
Totally. You're reminding me of there's a scene where Anna and Will in the college years where they wind up sharing a practice room. And when I was at Wheaton, one of my really good friends, Joe, who is also very musically gifted, used to do his piano practice in one of the practice rooms, and you have to reserve them, and it's a whole thing. And sometimes when he would need a brain break, he would say, "Come meet me at the practice room. I just like need to talk to another human." And I would hang out in these practice rooms with him, which are soundproof, so that the six pianos that are all in a row are not like disturbing each other. And I have so many happy memories of sitting in there with him and chatting and gossiping and helping kind of like reset his brain after he was spending too much time on something. And that is such a specific time of life. And I think, we love coming of age stories here on Plans Are Booked. And this is one where you get to see those years and you get to see the flash forward, which is really wonderful and done in a really great way. And Joan was asking Juliet, did you write all of the past at once? Did you write all of the present at once? Did you weave it together? And we always wonder that, I feel like, when there are now and then stories, like how do you outline or strategize or murder board your way into knowing what's going to be the right order?
And as they were asking that, I was picturing myself up in Juliet's seat and how I would answer that because the book that I wrote last year, you may remember, I had to write it linearly and then weave the past and present together. I don't have the mental capacity to do bouncing back and forth. So that was so interesting to hear her, well, her whole talking about how she didn't even intend it to be a book at first and how she then didn't do it linearly because that wasn't the whole point. It was more of like an exercise of like, can I do this, like write this scene with these characters? So interesting how everyone's brain is so different and can still come out with like a beautiful portrait, you know?
Totally. Totally. I could see this summer being a book you start to see everywhere on the beach, at the pool, at the airport. I think it's picking up steam. And because it is so prominently displayed in every single Hudson News, people are just impulse buying it when their flights are delayed or the TSA is taking 1,000 years and they miss their flight. Um,
Which
I'm
is
really,
not the TSA's fault, I just want to
no,
say.
we know whose fault it is, but we're not giving any airtime to said person. I'm really happy for Juliet. I feel so grateful. We got the opportunity to read this early and to sit with her and hear about her process. It was wonderful. Anything else you want to say before we talk about what we're reading now?
Well, I just want to say this is also book related. Obviously, this is book related. The time that this episode airs, Woody Brown's book, I believe, will be out. And I just want to implore anyone listening to please buy Upward Bound by Woody Brown. I just want him to have all the awards and kudos and income. So just please support him. It's such a good book. It'll make my heart happy. Do it for me.
And if you missed our episode about that, you can go back and listen, or after you read it, you can listen as a reward and see if you agreed with our analysis. I know we were really lucky to get our hands on that so early, such a special book. Okay, do you want to share what you're reading now?
Sure. First I have to ask, did you read the Times article about Ballerina Farm that came out like, I want to say 2024?
No.
I didn't make you read that. Well, I'm going to make you read it now.
Okay.
I don't even know where to begin on this. Okay, so there was an article that came out in the Times. It's free. You don't have to like get past a paywall to read it, and it is about Ballerina Farm, who on Instagram has so many effing million followers, and a lot of my people that I thought had critical thinking skills in my life follow them. And after reading that article, which gave me the heebie-jeebies, I'm like, how do people not understand what's happening here? Ballerina Farm is an account of a Mormon family in I believe they're in Utah, and, the whole, like, shtick is that they make everything from scratch, and the videos are you see her in her, like, prairie dress with, like, her 9 kids around her, and she's making beautiful breads in this oven, this antique oven, which costs, like, an arm and a leg, but that's neither here nor there, and it looks like they are playing at being poor pioneers, essentially. What you If you haven't done your research, what you don't understand is that his daddy is the billionaire founder of JetBlue. So there's like this, super cushion that keeps them they're not playing at pioneers. They have all the cushion they need. Why am I talking about that? Because that sort of is I'm assuming, sort of kernel that turned into this book. This book that I'm currently reading is Yesteryear by Caro Claire Burke. I have been asking my coworkers to keep their eyes out for months for the arc to come in, and it never came in. And I was like, how the F did this book not show up? For sure, she's doing some sort of, or her publisher at least would be doing some sort of push for arcs to get out there. And then lo and behold, I talked about it so much at work that one of my coworkers texted me one night and was like, I was just going through my TBR and look what I found. So I walked in the next day and it was on with like a little sticky note on the table in the break room. Caro Claire Burke has a fantastic podcast called Despicable Lies. I'm pretty sure that's the title of it. It's her and a friend, and they are two brilliant women. They have like a thesis each episode, but they're pulling apart some sort of political thing that's going on in pop culture at the moment. So there's episodes about Charlie Kirk. There's episodes about Sabrina Carpenter and like the sexualization of her. And they have like a whole span of episodes, but they're both very smart women and they do so much research to sort of be able to talk about these subjects with such deep knowledge on them. And there also is an episode about Ballerina Farm. So the premise of this book and the reason that I wanted to read it, it is about a woman who, very much like Hannah Nealman, who is the woman in Ballerina Farm. She was a Juilliard student who left Juilliard to have a baby because she'd gotten married. And this girl in Yesteryear is at Harvard. She too gets married after her freshman year and is pregnant and leaves her sophomore year. And her husband is sort of like a bumbling idiot, and his father is a senator, and he comes from oodles and oodles of money. And so he's sort of like, what do you mean I have to get a job? Like, I don't need a job. We got plenty of money. And she's like, you need purpose. Like, you need something to do. He likes the idea that she said randomly on like their first date that like someday he'd like to have a farm with chickens. And so when the book starts, they are, on a couple hundred acres in Idaho, and he kind of farms, but like not really. He kind of like takes care of the cows a little bit, but he's not really doing like actual farming work. And she is getting up at 5 a.m. to do her hair and makeup before her producer comes in and videos, whatever sort of natural meal she's going to be making on today's video. And there's behind the scenes 2 nannies, and everything's taken care of, even though they're playing at being pioneer poor. And then, so that's the first section of the book, and that's about 30 pages. And then we get to the next section where she wakes up in the dark. She knows it's her bed, but it's not her comforter, and it's so effing cold, and there's no light to turn on. And she realizes it's her house, but it's different. The floorboards are different. And she goes down the hall to the kitchen, and the kids feel like they're hers, but they're not hers. They're not the kids that she went to sleep having. They look like her, but they're not hers. And her husband is her husband, but his eyes look different. And she's like, did I get sucked back in time? Like, what is happening here? And so you're trying to figure out in alternating chapters what her life was like when she first got married and how she ended up getting to the like millions of followers who follow her but also hate her at the same time. And then in this like weird either alternate universe or past, whatever, I haven't figured out what's happening, but she's like not doing well because there's no modern conveniences, and that isn't really her family, but she still has like some maternal instincts towards the kids. So she's like, are they my kids? Like, what is happening here? I'm really interested to see where this is gonna go, and I know from having listened to many episodes of Caro's podcast that, like, it's gonna have brilliant turns, throughout. So, yeah, Yesteryear by Caro Claire Burke, and hopefully we'll do an episode on it.
Okay. That was a lot. I look forward to hearing where it goes. I just finished this morning Cherry Baby by Rainbow Rowell, which Steph talked about on an earlier episode. I have to give you major kudos because you explained the premise of this book in a way that I was like completely hooked, and you did not at all give away what was going to happen or the
I was
direction it was going to go in.
I was trying really hard to be intentional about that.
And I'm really pissed off about where it went.
Oh.
And I really didn't expect we're going to do an episode about it, so I'll say more then, but I think
Mhm.
I
From a
started
romance, are you thinking like
yes.
yeah.
Yes.
Mhm.
Even though I know Rainbow Rowell does not do cheesy or tie it up with a bow stories, so I didn't have that expectation. I thought it was going in one direction. I was excited about said direction,
Mhm.
and then it went in a different direction that I was not.
She clotheslined you.
She did. And I was really mad because I was all in. I mean, when I love a book, the ultimate compliment to the book is when I choose to read it instead of watch TV. I'm a huge television person, hours per day. If I choose not to do that and to read instead, it means I really love something. And that's what was happening with this book. I was like, I'm going to do another 50 pages or 100 pages before I watch whatever I'm going to watch tonight. And it started to just go in a direction where I was like, Rainbow, what are you doing to me? This is not where I want this to go. And her writing is so honest and so vulnerable and so relatable. And even as the characters were doing things that made me want to punch them, I still liked them and I still wanted them to be happy. And I still like wanted a merciful outcome for the people that I was rooting for. And we've read and discussed two of her other books here on the pod, both Slow Dance and Eleanor and Park. Those books I could have pictured as a TV show or a miniseries or a movie easily. This one I actually had a harder time with, especially as it went on.
Mhm.
And I felt like, you know what? The written word might actually be the format that this is meant to be in.
Agreed.
So Caitlin's going to read it as well, and hopefully we'll be back, all three of us, to talk about it. But
Wait,
man,
how many stars did you give it?
I gave it 4 stars.
Okay.
I still really loved it, minus a star for the ending that I didn't like. I mean, you get punished if you don't deliver me pure joy.
But I think that, first of all, I don't think her books are qualified as romance. I think they're commercial fiction. And I
Yeah.
think that she writes realness. She's not writing for like the sake of drama. She's writing like what could be a real person's story, always very grounded in reality. And I think that's why we don't always like reality.
Right. Yes. And I think the beginning of the book, and this isn't giving anything away, she has a really romantic turn of events, this main character.
Oh, it's like a meet cute that would happen in any other romance book.
Correct. And then she plummeted me back down into a place I did not want to be. And I just was surprised is what I'll say. I was surprised. It caught me off guard. It was still beautifully architected and articulated, but I only give 5 stars to things that either explode my heart with joy or that are so beautifully written I could weep over the prose. And
oh God, that makes me feel so. Did you only give me 5 stars because you're my best friend?
no, no, I can't be discrediting my rating system out in the world. No, I feel like this is going to be a really good book to discuss because I think all three of us are going to have different perspectives on it. And as Steph said in the last 2 episodes ago when we talked about this, Cherry, the protagonist of the story, is plus size, and there's a huge element to this book about her self-worth, her self-esteem, her body, how that impacts the way she views herself and her relationships with other people.
And GLP-1s.
And GLP-1s. Yeah, I was actually thinking to myself how the recency of this book is a bit like at the forefront because of that. And because there's so much talk about people being on Ozempic, the secrecy around that, the
Do you know,
shame.
I don't think I was seeing GLP-1 commercials before you and I recorded that episode, and now I'm seeing them all the time. And I don't know if I just was like not paying attention, or if, technology was listening to me and that's why I'm now getting GLP-1 commercials.
So I only see GLP-1 commercials on every streaming platform where I have ads. And I'm sure that they know my watching behavior and clicking behavior, and they listen to everything that I say. I watched an episode of Heated Rivalry last night, just like a rewatch, and every commercial break was for Roe. Every single one. Like, I think there were 5 or 6 over the course of the hour. That happens to me nightly. And it's very challenging as a person who that is like around you all the time. And I can silence it in a lot of ways. I can unfollow people who are talking about it. I can choose not to participate in conversations where people are talking about it. I cannot seem to block or say I'm disinterested in these ads. So while I'm trying to like watch Heated Rivalry and mind my own business, I'm being visually and auditorily assaulted by ads for weight loss drugs, and it drives me insane. And I try to like look at my phone during them or something so I'm not paying as much attention. But when you're actively trying not to see that or hear that, it's very frustrating. And there are some platforms where you can say, I prefer like this Geico ad, or I prefer what, for some reason, I can't seem to set the preferences in a way that's letting me out of seeing these ads. And it bugs the crap out of me. If you want to follow along with all the books that we mentioned today, many of which are worthy of your cash money, please join us at Plans Are Booked on Instagram. That's where we share the list of all the books we talk about every episode. You can write to us at plansarebbooked@gmail.com. If you liked what you heard today, we would be honored if you would leave a 5-star review, speaking of 5 stars, on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. It really does help people find the show.
And until next time, our plans are booked.